You have a live mic.
Thank you. I guess we're good for the 2 o'clock time certain.
Yes, sir, Commissioners. That brings us to item 11A. This is our 2 o'clock time certain, and this is a recommendation to hear a presentation of the 2023 Collier County Community Assessment. And Mary Beth Greer is here from the Schultz Family Foundation, and she will be joined by Eileen Connolly-Kiesler from the Community Foundation.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, and thank you very much for allowing us a few minutes of your time to present on the community assessment. As a little bit of background, and hopefully I can make the clickers work. They're not working. Next. Okay. With the community assessment, we were here 5 years ago to present the first ever community assessment that was sponsored by both the Schultz Family Foundation and the Community Foundation. We wanted to get a feel from the residents what the assets and what the needs were in Collier County. What we learned from the first assessment, rolling?
You can just hit the space bar and it'll advance
Underneath you.
Okay, thank you. What we learned from the first assessment between our two foundations in terms of priorities was a need for increased funding in early learning so that there could be greater capacity, greater quality. Between our two organizations, we granted approximately $4.5 million towards early learning specific. We also saw that mental health care was a priority. Between our two organizations, we donated approximately $1.8 million toward those efforts. We also thought that career and technical education, an increased awareness and funding for that was a priority, and that again came across from the respondents from the survey. And we, between our two organizations, donated about $3.1 million, and last, certainly not least, was a public and private housing initiative, which you're all very familiar with, the Golden Gate Essential Workforce Housing Project, which in total, between our organizations, granted another $10 million. So in total, over the past 5 years, just regarding those priorities, we've donated or granted approximately $19.5 million. The first assessment was important for us to learn about what the needs were in the community. It was equally important, if not more important, for the community members who actually reaped the benefits of that. It wasn't just the Community Foundation and the Schultz Foundation that did this work. We had a panel of community advisors, anywhere from Naples Daily News to Florida Southwestern, Florida Gulf Coast, NCH, and so forth. So we took our combined impact, our combined insight to develop the survey and to reach all of the potential people that we needed to hear from. How we did it was very similar to when we did it in 2017. We had primary data, which was the assessment that we gave to people. We also had focus groups. Likewise, we studied lots of different reports, whether it was the census, whether it was reports from the health department, and so forth. It was that combination of information that gathered all of the information for us. In this survey, we had 6,072 respondents, which is a great representation of the community. We were sure to target every zip code to make sure that we were hearing from everyone, whether they were in Chokoloskee or in Old Naples or on Marco Island or Immokalee. When we did the survey in 2017, we had about 4,100 respondents. So it was a great turnout, better than we expected. The better news is that almost 85% of the people who responded were full-time residents. That was one thing we wanted to make sure, that we didn't just get seasonal people. We wanted to really hear from the people who are here with us 364 days of the year. As part of the assessment, we had focus groups. So we had the survey where people answered approximately 15 or 20 questions about what was important, but then we dug down deep into focus groups. We led some of the focus groups, and the company who did the survey or the assessment for us did some of them. So we had English language groups, we had education focus groups, we had infrastructure and transportation focus groups, and then we also had focus groups in people's neighborhoods within their zip codes. So in total, we had 24 focus groups from trained community members. What we learned, well, I'm going to go back one. So we studied the 7 different domains. The first one we'll talk about today was the domain surrounding economic opportunity and employment. And again, this information is based on what the people in the community told us and how they felt about what was happening in the community. So we asked them if they were satisfied with workforce training. And what you'll see here is about 35% of the respondents said yes, they're satisfied with workforce training. About 26% said no, we're not satisfied with it. What's really worth noting is the 39% of the folks in the community who don't know about workforce training. As organizations, that's good news for us. It's an opportunity to inform the community. In terms of growth management, we asked people, are you satisfied with growth management in Collier County? 29% said that they were satisfied or very satisfied. 52% said they're dissatisfied or very dissatisfied, with 18% saying don't really know, don't have an opinion. We also asked folks about access to food. 74% of the people surveyed said, yes, we believe there's good access to food in Collier County. About 22% said, no, there's not enough access. Likewise, on employment opportunities, we had a great response here, with 70% of the folks saying, yes, we believe there's very good, or we're very satisfied or satisfied with access to employment activities, with 16% saying, no, we don't think there's enough access. In the focus groups, we narrowed things down, or we really drilled into things a little bit more. So the conversations around economic opportunity in the focus groups were around commercial and small businesses. Many of those people in the group represented that they have some barriers accessing what they need in the community. The other barriers that they found were to economic opportunities and employment, so that was a big part of the conversation, as well as, which would be part of the conversation no matter where you are, cost of living, wages. Some people talked about food insecurity. Another conversation was regarding workforce development and how do we increase workforce development in the community. Education was another domain we studied, and it's full of very good news. About 51% of the folks surveyed said that they were satisfied or very satisfied with pre-K through 12th grade education, with only 14% being dissatisfied. While 51% doesn't seem like a wonderful number, if we were to look at the folks that had children 18 years and younger, so children who would likely participate in the school district or private or independent schools, that number, 51%, goes to 70% of the folks in the community are satisfied or very satisfied with pre-K through 12th grade education. That's a great number in our opinion. 47% of the people said that they were satisfied with post-high school education opportunities. Again, in this area, we went back to workforce training. 35% of the folks are satisfied or very satisfied. Access to affordable childcare. You'll see here that 20% of the folks are satisfied, 45% are dissatisfied. However, when we narrow it down, again, to people with children, that number becomes satisfied, dissatisfied. 60% of the folks are not satisfied with access to affordable health care. Childcare. Sorry, childcare. Big difference. Thank you. In the focus groups, different topics came up. One of the, and when I have these four things up here, these are the kind of the overwhelming conversations, or the largest conversations that came up. One was the needing access to childcare to maintain jobs. People have difficulty having a full-time job if they don't have high-quality local access to that childcare. After school and vocational programming was a big conversation, all in a very positive way. There were a lot of shout-outs to various organizations who do a fantastic job with after-school programming for their children so that families feel safe and secure with where their kids are while they're at work. On the negative side of things, conversations regarding student pressure, student support, the politicizing of education was a big topic among all of the respondents in the focus groups. Recruiting and retaining teachers was also a theme that kept popping up. And typically, Eileen and I will point out that the recruiting and retaining teachers isn't a result of it wasn't a result of how the school district operates. It was more about the affordability of living in Collier County. So it's hard for Collier County School District to recruit new teachers if they can't afford to live here. So it's not a dent against the school district as much as it is the challenges associated with coming here. So those are the things that I'll talk about. I'm turning it over to Eileen, that we found that were really important and worthwhile noting and sharing with the community. Eileen gets the good stuff.
All right, environment, love it. Okay, so, I know I could look at paper, but I just find it easier to do it this way. So what we were really surprised about here is satisfaction with emergency preparedness. You can see people are really satisfied in this community, with 75% of the people feeling really good about where the county's at. So a big shout out to the county and emergency management. What?
Especially post-hurricane.
Oh, yeah, especially since this was post-Ian, and the fact that people are feeling like that was all handled really well. Satisfaction with climate change readiness. Here you start seeing it change a little bit, with 42% of the people not feeling like we're so ready for climate change in general. Only 30% feeling like we are. 28% didn't really have an opinion on it. This was interesting 5 years ago, and interesting again, access to parks and clean beaches. You look at that, 86% of the people saying yes. That is really interesting. I think that people felt good 5 years ago. Those numbers were very similar. People feeling still really good about having access, and I think our founding fathers did a good job on allowing people to have access onto those beaches. Themes that came up: climate change and environmental education. Are we talking enough about a community that has a very delicate ecosystem? And do people really understand, and especially people moving here? You know, I come from Wisconsin, not so delicate there. So, you know, you come here, it's a very different environment than what many of us have grown up in. And are we talking enough about that? Discussions about emergency and natural disasters. Of course, we had just had a hurricane, and what else do we need to do to prepare this community? Impact of climate change on beach tourism. We know when red tide hit 4 years ago, it was really hard on businesses and tourism. So we know that when the beaches are in trouble, like even after Ian, it affects everybody economically here. And then just discussion about community environmental challenges, maybe not enough discussion about recycling and things that we could all be participating in to make it a better community. Healthcare and mental health. When we look at this, we asked about affordable health care, and you've got about 45% of the people feeling like they do not have access to affordable health care, and somewhere around a 41% saying they do. Affordable mental health. Here again, you're seeing 47% of the people not feeling like they have access to mental health, only 27% feeling like they do. Access to dental, 49% saying no. So when we get into this, we start seeing a change on, do people have access? And it's interesting because as we talk to like doctors and things who are all going concierge, I mean, many are saying this isn't a money issue, but it is an issue where doctors aren't feeling like they have enough time with their patients, that they're being pushed to have more and more, patients going through in one day. And so they're feeling like they got to step back if they really want to provide decent health care. Like, they need time with people, and that's changing in this community. So you are seeing that. You're seeing people leave. Pediatricians are leaving. You're seeing docs leave. So it's just something I think we really have to keep an eye on in Collier County to make sure everybody can get health care. In those focus groups, again, access to availability and affordable health care was an issue. Access to programs and facilities was an issue, because when you get into rural areas here, people have to drive a long way to get to see a doctor, to get to a clinic, to get to a dentist. So things, again, maybe organizations like Healthcare Network can look at as where they're placing clinics to make sure everybody has access. Senior population came up. What are we going to do with our senior population? As we look at what's happening here in Collier County, right now we're somewhere around 30% are 65 and older. That's estimated to be over 40% by 2040. Okay, so where are they going? They're going to age in place? Probably not. They're going to need facilities. When I got here 11 years ago, there were no senior centers in this community. Now we have 2, they're at capacity. So that whole issue about how do people age here and how we're going to be able to provide the services they need. Mental health, obviously, especially COVID brought that to light. People are concerned about not having access to mental health services. You hear it all the time because, you're dealing with David Lawrence and the facility and the need that we see around substance abuse and mental health. Housing. I probably don't even have to go through this with you, but what do people think about housing? 77% of the people said we do not have enough affordable housing here. Only 17% of the people said we did, and look at that, don't know, only 6%. So people really feel like they understand we have a housing crisis going on here. Satisfaction with homelessness support. Here we've got about 41% or so saying no, they don't think we have enough services for the homeless. Only 27 or so percent saying that we do, and you have a whole chunk of 32% not having any idea whether we do or not. So when we asked about themes in there, it just, this is a constant conversation. I just came from a presentation, and probably the hour and a half I was there, probably an hour it was all on housing and what's happening with affordable housing. People very concerned, aware of what we're dealing with here in Collier County. Homelessness and the continued increase in homelessness. We're seeing a lot of single women in cars. Our Women's Foundation is working on that, so we know it's out there. They're parking by the Walmarts. They're parking behind strip malls. They're parking together, like caravanning in cars, because that's where they live. And it makes them feel better when you can get them together versus one parking way over there and one parking over there. So you're starting to see that happen here more in Collier County. Obviously, discussion about workforce housing. We need to make sure everybody has a place to live here. Interesting discussion about lack of awareness around neighborhood ordinances and HOAs. A lot of people don't quite understand the HOAs and what that means and who's got power to do what. So just discussion on wanting more information about how HOA operates. Infrastructure and transportation. Satisfied with public transportation? Pretty split actually on this, although I do usually ask the question of how many people have ever taken public transportation, and very rare do I get a hand raised. Most people see buses, so they assume, well, there's a bus there, we must have a decent system, but they really do not understand how the system works and how long you may have to wait for a bus and what has to happen here on county level in transportation. Satisfaction with broadband. People seem very satisfied, with 61% saying, yep, all is good there. Satisfaction with public utilities. Also somewhat of a surprise that it came in as high as that did, coming in at almost 80% of the people feeling really good about that. They probably don't live out in the rural areas because I'm driving out there and lose my GPS. I'm like, I don't know where I'm going. So I'm sure there's some of that goes on. Satisfaction with growth management. I guess, this is the kind of stuff we want county commissioners to see. You got a chunk of the community here, 52% saying they are not satisfied with growth management, and maybe it's just lack of knowledge and not enough awareness, because 18% are saying they really don't know much about what's going on with growth management. Access to safe neighborhoods. Oh, look at that. The sheriff should be very happy with that coming in at 87%. People feel really good about living here, feel like it's a safe environment. Satisfaction with emergency services, again, 82% coming in. And access to affordable arts and culture. Surprised me a little bit that we're still this high. We were kind of high last go around also, but with 61% saying they do have access. So that's great for this community. Things that came up: community infrastructure and safety being the biggest issue, population growth and pressure on roads and traffic. You hear this all the time, but you can see people are definitely concerned about it. Safety concern for drivers with bike riders on the road, which I will not ride a bike until May again because of the safety issues. So, and then limitation on public transportation, certainly. Again, I don't know that everybody takes public transportation, but some who have taken it said they're long routes. It's difficult getting from Immokalee to Naples and other things around. Transportation should be probably taken a look at. Special populations, we didn't do this last time, but satisfaction with services for people with disabilities, coming in pretty split on that, around 30% on each side, 38% not knowing. Satisfaction with veteran services. You've got 17% saying they're not satisfied. We thought this was interesting. One of the biggest percentages, 55%, do not know what's going on with their veterans in this county. And, keep in mind, you got 22,000 veterans living here, and you certainly have a portion of veterans. I think the last numbers I saw now were like 159 are homeless. So definitely something we should be having conversations about in this community. Focus groups talked about adult focus, special needs programming, making sure things are accessible for wheelchairs and our senior populations as well as kids, and veteran support. We need to look better at veteran support. So key issues in comparison, if you look at this chart, you're going to see those top three things: controlling housing, managing growth and development, and environment. Those are our top three this year when we did the study. And if we compare it to what it was 5 years ago, you can see housing was 45% then, now 65%. Managing growth development, big change, was 38%, now it's 63%. Environment was 22 and now it's 41. And although you might go, well, we just had a hurricane, we had Irma last time, the first time we did this. So we had a hurricane then, and we had a hurricane with Ian, and we'll do this study again in 5 years and see what happens. Public education, workforce training comes in about the same. So, you know, we wanted the county for sure to see, here are the top things the community are saying we need to take a look at, and we need to keep watching. And so, you know, our next steps, we're out in the community talking about this needs assessment. It helps us as funders determine where we're going to go in the future. It helps other funders looking at this, and our nonprofits when we say these were the top issues that came out. These are the things we continue to work on. Just like last time, we looked at those top things, and again, just between the two of us, almost 20 million was put into those issues in this community. We're going to continue down this path of trying to deal with what it is the community says are the biggest needs. So we cut it down to make it a little shorter for you, and are happy to take any questions you might have.
Commissioner McDaniel.
Yep, I'll go first. And I think I already know the answer to this question, but as you're aware, the board redid the vision statement, mission statement, business plan, and budget priorities last year. We made some significant moves budgetarily last year, as well as engaged a consultant last year to help us with the old guy's accounting terminology is zero-based budgeting. The new terminology is priority budgeting. And so is this data going to be available to us for us to integrate into the findings from our consultant? Because this at the end of the day, this is how we should be better managing the monies, the taxpayers' money that's available for the priorities of what the community sees as its needs.
Absolutely. The whole study is available for anybody who wants it, either on the Schultz Foundation website or our website, or we can email it to you if you'd like. That's easier for you. So you have the entire study you could read. That's how many?
Well, us having it is less important than our staff and making sure that the consultant that our staff and we are working with has that availability. I mean.
Do you have it yet, Amy? Okay, we'll make sure they get it.
Okay.
If I can
Yeah, go ahead.
just point out for a second, with this study, we can narrow it down into zip codes. So if there's a specific question on how does Immokalee feel about X, we're able to go into certain zip codes for questions that were asked.
And my second question has to do with both of you said, I thought anyway, a lot of the opinions had more to do with maybe not having information that's already there. And so can we engage with you to get to the folks that you've consulted with or had query or had give their opinions as to what's going on? Because Trinity Scott's a wealth of information back there with regard to all of our staff is with regard to infrastructure projects, housing programs, housing developments, so on and so forth, things that we're doing with regard to growth management, with regard to transportation, not making excuses, but to share with people because a lot of the folks don't even know, they just know that they're stuck in gridlock when they're trying to go on from A to B and aren't aware of the improvements that are in fact already underway. So can we impose upon you for information transmittal?
There are some things we can, like we're going to be doing a housing issue paper, and maybe we can put in some pieces. I think they were trying to contact you on some quotes on that. That's when we can slide in like infrastructure. Here are some of the things that are going on. So there are lots of things we're working on that actually we can. And, you know, some of those I don't know things, you know, like school district. Keep in mind, 30% of our people are 65 and older. They don't have kids in the school district, you know, they don't even have grandkids in the school district. So they're gonna say, I don't know. Veterans, if you don't have a family member that's a veteran, you're probably not paying attention to what's going on. So I think for all of us, and probably even our nonprofits, when the opportunity is there to educate, we've got to take advantage of it.
Well, from me to you, what I would like to do is avail myself or our staff. They're all sitting back there going, oh my God, he's volunteering me again. But I would like to avail ourselves at speaking engagements for information dissemination. It's imperative that the community is aware of what's in fact going on and hearing what the either perceived needs or the actual needs in fact are, and how the government's in fact trying to address those. So I know I would myself like to, I would like to offer up myself as an opportunity just to share information that we have going on.
You know, it'd be great too if we could get the newspaper to maybe do a small article or a big article on each one of these domains and how it ties to the county, you know, like.
Sure.
Those kinds of things, and I don't know how you do media here, so something that I think we could think about, maybe, you know, that's just saying, here are 7 domains, and here's what the community was saying, so talk to your county manager and your commissioners about what their thoughts are on it, so.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep.
I would have a question regarding the climate change. What constitutes climate change education? I mean, we're not very seasonal here. It doesn't get cold and hot.
No, but when they talk about that, they're talking about sea level rise, you know, the effect mangroves and natural plantings, dunes, and other things can have on our beaches when hurricanes are hitting. Is there increase in storms? Is the Gulf getting warmer? I mean, those are the things, and some of those we're going to monitor from the Community Foundation perspective, because we're going to take these 7 domains and we look at that. So the charts on that, I think, is what people are saying, what's happening. What are we looking at in this county? Are we paying attention to it at all? Does it matter? Does it not matter? So when we're talking education, I don't know, and you can jump in on any piece you want on that.
So in particular, the Schultz Foundation doesn't fund environmental agencies. However, we do fund organizations that educate about environment, so places like the Conservancy. So when we're looking at this and we see climate change and education about climate change is a concern, that gives us an opportunity to look at, are we going to shift some of our funding to be more around that area? I get your point about the hot and cold, but people are looking, I think, in Collier County about those climate change issues that revolve around kind of warm weather places, like red tide, like the tide rising and so forth.
So would red tide be a result of climate change?
I don't think that anyone has been able to put a pin in that yet.
Yeah.
There are some experts who say yes, and there are some who say no.
I just wondered, because it was around in Cortez's day. He documented it. I was just curious about that.
There's journals.
I heard one scientist say that it's been going on for 2 billion years. Natural occurring event doesn't have anything to do with it has to do with what the climate is doing at the time that red tide in fact occurs, which way the wind's blowing, but it's not impacted by the climate change thing.
Commissioner Saunders.
Thank you. Thank you for the update on that report. And some very interesting things there. There are a few things that the county can certainly focus on. Mental health, for example, I think we've taken some action in that regard with the receiving center that will be going up. I think that'll be under construction in this calendar year, I believe. We're really grappling with the workforce housing, and that's probably the number one issue impacting most people at this point. You talk about women living in their cars, and we just need to really ratchet up what we're doing for workforce housing. It's kind of a question for the county manager, but we have the $20 million in our fund. We today, I think, made some changes on how we can use those dollars, but there's really been nothing that's come to the board to talk about properties that are available and what we can do to ratchet up the effort to have more workforce housing. We know areas where this can go without impacting in a negative way existing neighborhoods. We know that there are, just as an example, that Sticks project in Golden Gate City, where there's a reconversion of a hotel into a workforce housing type of a project. There are plenty of hotels in this county that are probably less than lucrative for the owners, and perhaps there's an opportunity there. So I want to, that's one of the takeaways from this, and I think most people in the community, based on your analysis, most people feel that that's really a hot button issue. Of course, traffic is another, and we're I think diligently working towards improving our transportation system, but I think we can do more. I know in a couple of weeks we're going to talk a little bit about Immokalee Road, and maybe there's some things we can do. I've been working with Trinity Scott on some potential projects on Immokalee Road that would help a little bit. But those are the real, I think, are the real two really big issues that most people are concerned about: traffic and a place to live. And I know we were focusing on those, but perhaps we need to focus a little bit more. I know Commissioner Hall is working with the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, and that committee has done great things under your leadership, and I know it'll continue to in the next year. But I'd like to see us really focusing on those two issues a little bit more. I know we've talked about it a lot, but I'd like to see us focus on them a little more. And I think your report really bears that out, that that's a problem, or those are two of the major problems.
So do we. So do we. Commissioner Kowal.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I appreciate you guys coming here and giving us this presentation. I think it's full of a lot of information and things that we can use moving forward. I wasn't here, of course, 5 years ago to hear it then, but you know, initially I see that workforce housing and affordable housing has definitely been a topic, and it's something we've all been, you know, faced with, at least this past year I've been on the board. And I think we've made strides towards even the developers, these private developers coming in and building, and we're kind of holding them to task to have percentage of affordable apartments and things like that built into their projects. And, you know, basically what it all comes down to, I know with the 20 million and with the AHOC committee and with the affordable housing, we're going to find something good and a good project and the right kind of properties to use that, but that's a small little Band-Aid on a big problem. You know, we have to have that private sector and, you know, out there willing to come here and invest their own money, their own skin in the game to build projects and build apartments that have that percentage of affordability in there. And it's sad because when you ask, and we hear it every day, traffic, 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 and you always ask, well, what do you think the reason for the traffic is? Because we're building too much. Too many apartments on the Immokalee Road, too many this and that. So it's kind of like it's a bad thing because we know we need this, but at the same time we have to deal with this. And, you know, it's like they don't want no more building, but at the same time they want places to live. So it's like a hard juggling game that, you know, we're all going to be part of. And I think information too, because I know for a fact, I saw something in the report about people weren't aware or don't think we recycle enough. I'm pretty sure we won an award last year in our county, correct? Dr. George back there, for being, you know, on top of that. And, you know, and I know like even our garbage trucks, we run off natural gas. We don't use diesel fuel. I mean, when it comes to polluting and things like that, we're way ahead of the curve. Not even being asked by anybody to do it. They're taking it on their own to do it. So I think, you know, the public probably doesn't even realize a lot of these things. So, you know, but definitely share this information because it's going to be useful for us down the road. So thank you.
I totally agree that people do not know, and there's got to be some kind of campaign, something we can run off this.
Stay on the mic, dear.
Sorry.
Please.
My voice is so loud, I don't know why.
No, not for
that
the
long.
girl.
Okay, so I think that you're right, and again, I really think if there was a way for the newspaper to start doing some articles that address that. You know, housing's a big one. I do a lot of public speaking and have been talking about it, but I keep saying we have probably made more progress in the last 2 years or 3 years than we had made, you know, in the last 10. that everybody is looking at this and everybody's at the table, and the New Housing Alliance and the Housing Impact Fund we hold and the work that the county's doing. There's a lot going on, but it's slow. Building is slow. That is not something that pops up overnight. So I do think, yeah, the more we talk today, the more I really think the newspaper's got to grab this for us.
Mr. LaCastro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good data, but one of the things I wanted to just really thank you both for is how much money you've really invested in this community. I mean, the data gives us really good information, but there's so much in this community we wouldn't have been able to accomplish without organizations like yours and your foundation, the community foundation. So the millions of dollars you've invested in the community, some people are uneducated about that. I bet if you put on the poll here, what's the Collier Community Foundation? How many of you have ever heard of that? Yet they've all benefited from millions of dollars worth of support. Similar to what Commissioner Cole was saying, my biggest frustration on the workforce, affordable housing, whatever you want to call it, is you can see 80% of the people think we've done nothing about it. The second we have a builder that wants to build something, we get 100 matching T-shirts in here saying "Vote No." You're turning this place into Miami. You've ruined my neighborhood. You're overbuilding. Put it somewhere else. So. I've said before, we can't build everything out in Immokalee behind redwood trees. It has to be mixed in. There's also a big misconception about what affordable housing is. As you know, a lot of times we get notes where people say they reference that low-income housing project, and it's like, no, it's actually an apartment complex that's going to look like the Taj Mahal, but 35% of the units that are embedded in it are just going to be priced differently. It's not built any different. So many people, when I have town hall meetings, they don't get that. They think we're building, some sort of, government subsidized, cheap housing somewhere, and we're going to put it right in Port Royal, somewhere. And then lastly, I don't know, this is more tongue in cheek. How do 4% of the people not know where to get food? Or that we have enough options. I just, there's always somebody that says no opinion or whatever. But when I kind of saw that, I'm like, one of the things I think that. There was something the TDC showed me yesterday. They have some data, and one of the biggest reasons, not the biggest, beaches and all that, but a reason that's pretty high up there why people come to Collier County, Naples, Southwest Florida are the dining options and whatnot. But I just found that sort of how could there be 4% of people that, and I'm sure the question was, do we have enough food options or whatnot, but. Anyway, but thanks for what you do and how you've helped us improve the community, really with funds we wouldn't normally have. So thank you so much.
Great.
Yep.
There was lots of good information. I still don't understand some of the I don't knows.
Yeah.
But as far as housing and traffic, I witnessed the AHAC for 2 years constantly talk about the problem, put the problem in, had events about talking about the problem, put it in the paper, talking about the problem, magazines talking about the problem. And when I came on board last year, I was fed up with talking about the problem. The more you focus on a problem, the bigger it gets. The more you focus on the solution, the bigger it gets. So we've been at it for a solid year now, getting government out of the way, doing everything that we possibly can to make it plausible for builders. Now, the truth is, if I had a magic wand, I could do it today. But traffic's going to take years to correct. Housing's going to take 3 or 4 years to correct. If we broke ground on everything we could possibly imagine today, we're talking 2.5, 3 years before anybody moves in. So this is where faith and patience, you inherit the promises. And so I would, in your communities, and in your talking and in your talking points, I would encourage the public to give us grace and let us act instead of hammering us over a problem that we can't immediately fix.
You're right.
Yeah. So, County Manager, do we need a motion to approve or
You're not looking.
just a presentation? Great. Thank you, ladies.
Priority.
Thank you much.
That's not the Eileen we all know and love.
Oh, I'll be back a different
She wants
day.
something. Yeah, she wants something. Yeah. This was just
Commissioners, that brings us to staff and commission general communications. Item 15A is public comments on general topics not on the current or future agenda by individuals not already heard during previous public comment in this meeting.
We have no speakers.
We do not have any staff project updates, so that brings us to staff and commission general communications. Mr. Rodriguez?
We're good, thank you.
Nothing here? County Attorney?
We're good.
That's to you, board members. Your
Commis-
pleasure, Chair, on which end you want to start on.
Commissioner McDaniel.
Start in the middle, dang it. Nah, and I'm fine. I have nothing further to add.
Commissioner Colwell.
I'm fine too. I'm just looking forward to this second year of participating with this group of gentlemen up here. So,
Good.
2024, hoorah.
Commissioner Saunders.
Did we get a response to the invitation to negotiate for the Golden Gate Golf Course? The due date was yesterday, and I hadn't heard one way or the other.
Looking around for Mr. Finn and hope that he will either appear miraculously. Oh, look at there he is.
Did you hear
Hello,
that, Ed?
He just lingers in the hallway.
Ed, do you have an update for us on the ITN on the Golden Gate Golf Course?
Yes, ma'am. ITN and Golden Gate Golf Course, that was sent out approximately 2 weeks ago. I think it had 21 days
It was due
on the
today. It was
street.
just-
I have not seen it today, sir.
It-
I will check when I leave here, and I will send you an email.
That would be wonderful. That way I won't lose any sleep tonight wondering about the Golden Gate Golf Course.
That'll make one of us not losing sleep.
I have nothing else, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Commissioner LaCastro.
Yeah, I have a couple of just quick updates for all of you. This week I had a discussion with Victoria Peters from FDOT, Trinity, and Wayne as well about litter on I-75. I happened to be driving from Marco all the way up to a little bit past Estero, and Trinity I were talking about yesterday. She made the same trek for something totally different. It's horrible again, but Victoria assured us that they'd be attacking it aggressively, so I just thought I would throw that out there in case you hear from your constituents. We're not sitting on our hands. We're not doing anything, but it's also FDOT. The county's done, some things where we've gotten out of our lane a little bit when we've seen a couch in the middle of the road. We don't care if it's on I-75. We have sent county assets out before when there's something major, but it's FDOT's responsibility, and we're leaning on them once again pretty hard. There's some pretty bad stretches where it's not just a couple of tin cans. Had a great update from Jamie Cook yesterday on the rock crushing lot. So just to let you know, they're spreading the piles. Equipment's gone. They're still doing some things that are required by the Water Management District and some environmental things, but they're way past where they were. So it's just some finishing up things, and I've gotten some positive feedback from citizens as well. So just to sort of update the group. One thing that Mr. Rodriguez and I are talking about, we voted a month or two ago to go to credit cards only at all of our marinas and places of business when it comes to the county, because we were losing some cash out the back end, and I've been getting not a lot, but some pushback from some people. Oh, I sent my grandkids over to the marina at Port of the Islands to buy an ice cream, and they don't have a Visa card, so you got how ridiculous. I will tell you, I actually have about 6 pictures in my phone of places that I've gone that are non-county places. One of them was my mom's hospital in Tampa, and the cafeteria, credit cards only. So it's, I've been telling, my constituents, it's not something we invented. But also, too, and somebody said, well, hire a better contractor. It's not the contractor, but then the contractor hires employees that sometimes last for 30 days. And so, and then we find out, $1,000 is disappearing. But one of the things that Mr. Rodriguez and I talked about is maybe for purchases under $10 or something, we could accept cash. So they have a little bit of petty cash. And if somebody comes in to buy a coffee or an ice cream, so I know that they're going to look at that. We also want consistency across the county. I don't want to have a marina that only takes credit cards, but then we have one in somebody else's district that takes everything. And there were a few citizens that I won't say sort of, did accuse us of that. I'm being told by Parks and Rec, across the board, we are consistent, so maybe that was bad info or something like that. But I just thought I would make you aware of the topic. And then, Mr. Rodriguez, you and I talked quite a bit, and same with Ms. Williams in the back. But I just want to, go on the record here. Please keep the accelerator down on Caxambas. Citizens, certainly similar to what we were saying here, their lack of information, thinking that, they got their roof fixed in a month, and Caxambas was the most destroyed marina and park, really probably the most destroyed asset besides the Naples Pier, which isn't in the county. It's the city of Naples. But we can't fix it with a pickup truck full of plywood and 3 gallons of spackle. This is going to be a multi-million-dollar total redo. And the second we lock in contractors, that park's going to be closed. So some people that are screaming that they want it fixed are also the same people that are enjoying it right now. So the minute we try to fix it, we're actually going to lock it. But continue to, and really, it's not just, that's one of those things. Like the sports complex, it doesn't really matter whose district it's in. We have constituents in all of our districts that use Caxambas. And so it's really been in the news a lot. We've been catching a lot of spears. We had a few reporters that reached out to us, and I was telling Mr. Rodriguez, I watched one of the news reports on NBC2, and we gave them all the pertinent information, but they did sort of skew the report that they interviewed a bunch of citizens that all said the county is sitting on their hands and not doing anything. How could it take a year to fix a marina? Everything else, one quote was, everything else across the entire county is all fixed. And like we were talking, you can just go a little bit north and there's stuff that hasn't been touched. The pier hasn't been touched. There's houses that still have a lot of damage. So it's not an excuse, but this one has a lot of complicated moving parts to it. And also too, no budget. We don't have a budget that says, this is money set aside to rebuild one of our marinas. So, but continue to keep us updated. And then lastly, I wanted to just sort of end this with a real shout out and very impressive comments about Commissioner Colwell and Commissioner Hall. I mean, it's unbelievable that's been a year, right? I mean, I remember you guys campaigning. When I campaigned, I sat in this audience for a year and a half and went to pretty much every commissioner meeting to watch sort of what happened up here. And I'll just say in a nutshell, you wouldn't know that you two have only been in the seat for a year. I'll just say that just how impressed and proud I am to serve with both of you, and what a great addition you've been to this group. And even Commissioner Saunders has said that before, and he's got experience at every level of Florida government. And you all have really added to this group, not only with your get up and go, but your backgrounds, having somebody that's a former sheriff, your business background, how much it's paid, big dividends. So I just want to say, as a fellow colleague, and, we spent some time in Tallahassee together on a couple of trips, just so proud to serve with both of you, and, congratulations on your turn here. And, you'll see it's 6 feet over. It tires you out a lot more when you're running the show here. But, I really enjoy serving with both of you, and how much you've added this past 12 months. For sure.
Thank you, Commissioner LaCastro. I think we think likewise. I think y'all have made it easy for us, and I can't believe it's been a year. Thanks for making it a fairly easy transition today. This wasn't as bad as what I thought it might have been, but it was a good day. And I want to say thanks for the discussion on TDT stuff. I thought we had a good discussion, and look forward to meeting next week. And with that, we're adjourned.